What's up guys, Hippopotamus here, and today I'll be showing you a build that I've put together for a request for a subscriber called Brandon Farmer. He asked if I could make a Slingshot build, and that is what I have done. So I will go through the specialization, talk you through the build, and then go through the stat sheet, show you how to use it. So to start with, I've used the firewall. There's a few reasons for this. The main one is that I was struggling with crit damage, so I've used it for the tactical short grip, which you unlock through the shotgun. But the main other points here is just that I'm using an LMG and SMG, so I have synergizing weapons. We have the cluster grenades. They don't really help this build so much, so just a quick sort of note on those. Nothing really too much to write home about, but you know, they're there. We also have the signature weapon, which obviously with PvE is quite nice. And we're going to get a larger magazine with the PvE weapon. We're actually going to get, I think, 100 rounds in the flamethrower. So that's actually really, really nice. Keeps it going for much longer. We have frontline recovery, 30% health on kill. That can be handy if we get low and we do fall into our health bar, because we're only running 3 blue cores here, so this might potentially save us, and we might see a bit more value out of it with us being a little bit more squishy than normal. The medkit, the Accelerator Matrix, I think I'm saying that right, mesh, is, 200% over 10 seconds. You know, that's crazy. That's very, very good. So no matter what, that's always a really good medkit that we're going to have. So enriched magnesium formula is good because the burn duration, obviously the flamethrower is going to burn for 20% longer, but we also see some use out of fiery response. So on armor break, apply burn to enemies within 5 meters. That's going to help as well, because obviously we are playing in PvE. So the firewall tactical link, this could be useful. You do get close to some enemies, I guess, so it could be helpful for your teammates, but I guess it's limited due to the fact that we are quite squishy. So just something that you're going to see a little bit of a bonus with, but not all the time. We have Bull Rush. This is actually all right because we have some blue cores. Again, as I've said, we have 3 blue cores, so 30% bonus armor of 1.3 million is much more than just an all-red build where you've got like 900,000. Okay, so that's it for the skill tree. Pretty much everything there in the specialization. So, just before we start, I want to make one little disclaimer. This build is made for fun, and I do realise that Virtuoso is quite difficult to maintain its buffs. So, with all that said, I'm just going to go through the build here and talk about the moving parts as we get to them. So, for my first weapon, I'm using the Pecan. This comes rolled with LMG damage, damage to targets out of cover, and damage to armor. And the talent is Pecan. So, each kill with this weapon gains a stack of 75% base magazine size increased to the next magazine up to 4 times. So we could potentially have a very large magazine, and we actually have a way of increasing this as well if it falls right, but I'll show more about that in just a second. The star of the show obviously is the Slingshot, and IKEA did quite a deep dive into this weapon, showing that it's very difficult to use the weapon and its optimal range. So I have actually taken a ticket out of his book, and I've used the talent that he discussed in his video. But let's just go through this quickly first before we start. Obviously, we've got that optimal range at 60, and we have SMG damage, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. Now, if I had damage to targets out of cover, I would have definitely taken that, but the crit hit damage grab was the best I could do with the time that I had to farm this. So, in IKEA's video, he said that the only way to really sustainably hit targets out to the maximum range is to use Unwavering, because this gives us 300% weapon handling. Now, 100% accuracy is not enough to actually fix the weapon's balancing issues, especially out to maximum range targets. So this is the only way really that we can actually use this to reach out to the maximum distance. And because we are swapping weapons with the Centurion Scabbard, we're going to see some bonuses from this, and we're going to see some ways that we can increase our DPS to help us get a kill within that 5 seconds. So this will all make sense as we go through the gear, but that is the weapon that I'm using, and I think I should probably just go through the pistol very quickly. So this is just something that I do. I use the TDI card. We all know what the TDI card is and does. When we hold it in our hand, we gain 1 extra skill tier. Now, the main reason I'm using this is because I also have Reformation on it. So when I pull out a chem reinforcer shot, the one that heals you, what's going to happen is I'm going to gain one extra skill tier, and if I shoot an enemy in the head, I'm going to gain 60% skill repair for 15 seconds. Now, if you look at skill repair, that actually should be repair skill. I think it's worded wrong, but it does increase the healing from the reinforcer chem shot. So this is going to basically be like 3 skill tiers worth, and I'll show that when I get there, that this is a crazy amount of healing for a short amount of time if you can hit an enemy in the head. It's not even a kill, it's just a hit in the head. So, yeah. So all modded with crit chance. I guess what I should quickly do is as well just nip back to the Slingshot here and just show how I've got this set up. I also have crit chance mods, but notice that I'm using the C79 scope. That scope is allowing me to hit targets out to a much further distance, basically just by enhancing my zoom. I'm not saying that this scope actually will allow me to hit targets better as far as accuracy, but it just gives me a bit of a zoom so I can see them out to further ranges when I'm shooting at further ranges, right? So I get some kind of a zoom. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So the zoom can be quite helpful. So that's why I've chosen that, but we're basically going crit chance, crit damage everywhere, pretty much. Right, so onto the gear. So what I'll do is I will start off with the dilemma that I had. I had to farm these pieces quite quickly, so you're going to see some pieces like this where they have crit chance on the top. Now, preferably if you could get them with crit damage, and then sort of take crit chance rolls where you just need it, so the crit chance mods where you need it, and try and balance this out, that would be better for you. But this is the best I can do at the minute. So I guess I'll just start where we are. So I'm wearing a piece of Virtuoso. I don't really like this gear set because of how it works, but because of the weapons that we're using, and because of the gun that we're trying to use to play outside of its normal range, I felt that this fitted quite nicely, especially when there's range bonuses, so play in different ranges. So let's just go through the gear set. So if we have 2 pieces, it's going to give us weapon handling and magazine size. If we have 3 pieces, it's going to give us 15% weapon damage, so that's like 1 extra red core. And then the 4 piece, now this is the tricky bit here, and if you can get it, it's a lot of damage, but it's not up for long, and the bonuses aren't really as good as they should be because of the amount of time that you're going to have them. So, with Symphony, killing an enemy further than 25 meters will provide a 40% damage to shotguns, SMGs, and pistols, 20% weapon damage to ARs and LMGs, and 25% bonus armor for 15 seconds. Okay, very nice. So, killing an enemy within 25 meters will provide 40 weapon damage to MMRs and rifles. We also have 20% weapon damage to ARs and LMGs, and 30% extra headshot for 15 seconds. So intermittently killing enemies from both ranges will build up stacks, and at 4 stacks all the bonuses are multiplied by 2 and triggered at the same time for 15 seconds. No stacks are required while these bonuses are active. Okay, so it's a bit of a tricky one to use, and the main things that we're really going to gain from that is that 40% SMG damage, which is going to get turned into 80 if we have both stacks active. We also have the bonus armor, which is quite nice. We actually have some armor. And then we have the 20% damage to LMGs. That's going to be like 40%, which is quite good. And we also have the headshot damage as well, so a little bit of extra headshot damage should we aim for the head, because we aren't actually taking any headshot damage anywhere, so it's a little increase. It can be nice. So, tricky build, but let's go through the chests in the back, because we are using these to modify how the build works. So, with my next piece, I just have this with weapon damage, crit chance, crit damage, and I'm using Fortissimo. I hope I'm saying that right. Double the weapon damage of Symphony, okay? So it's going to double the weapon damage of Symphony. So that's potentially turning the damages up quite high, okay? So I'm also using the backpack, and what this is going to do is it's going to give me Accelerando, decreases the number of stacks needed to proc the Symphony double buff talent from 4 to 3. So instead of having 4 kills, I can now just have 3. A little bit more doable. I really think this should be like 2, especially with the amount of time that you have in it. I think that should really be 2, but never mind. This one comes rolled with 170,000 armor, created chance, and created damage. And I also have the knee pads, again, these are rolled with 170,000 armor and crit chance. So if I could go back and get these pieces again, I would think that I would want crit damage on the bottom of all of them. So just going through them again, armor, crit chance, as you can see, armor and crit chance. I would probably want crit damage on these and then slot in crit chance mods and crit chance attachments where needed to plug the gap, because it would give me a little bit more crit damage. Anyway, with all that said, onto the glove, and I am using the Eagle's Grasp. So this is playing into the bigger magazine size. This is giving me 15% extra magazine size. It's giving me 15% weapon damage. It's also giving me weapon handling, as we get 15% from Virtuoso. So this is like 30 now. And we also have crit hit damage rolled onto the bottom there. Right, for our final piece, we have the Centurion Scabbard. So this is all revolving around swapping weapons. And as I said, we have Unwavering, and we also have the Pecan, which deals with magazine size. So this effectively plays into both weapons. And I'll show you how when we get into the range. This comes rolled with weapon damage, weapon handling, and crit chance. All good stuff, things that we're looking for. And we also have the talents counter. Swapping weapons will give the following groups of bonuses one by one in order. This is why we have the weapons placed in the order that we do. So when we change the first time, which will be to the SMG, to the Slingshot, this is going to give us 20% fire rate and 20% weapon damage. Now remember, we've got 5 seconds to kill a target to keep the bonus up, and this is the reason why I've got it in the first slot, because that fire rate increase and that damage increase is going to help us confirm that first kill and potentially keep the chain going on and on and on and on as we keep shooting at enemies. The second switch would be back to the Pecan, and this is going to give me 50% weapon magazine size and 50% reload speed. So what we can do is get as many kills as we can within the buff, and should we get near maximum or maximum and we can quickly reload, we will gain an insane amount of ammo in our Pecan. So I'll show that as we get to it. Again, another thing at the range. It's just worth saying that the bonus will remain active for 12 seconds or until the next weapon swap. Swapping to your sidearm will not trigger the next group of bonuses. Now, what it doesn't say there is that it actually switches the bonuses round. As you switch to your pistol, it's one way to switch. Another way to switch is with your grenade. Again, this is something I'll show. So, quickly onto our skills. I've just got the Reviver Hive. There's not really too much to say here. This is just to pick us up. We don't have Unbreakable. We're only 1.3 million in armor. I think this is a worthwhile investment for us. It's going to allow us to get back up and not need teammates to come get us. So, yeah, that's the main reason really behind it, and that's why we're using it. So, as I've said, with my TDI card, I'm using Reformation, or Reformation, however you want to say it. And what that's going to do is, with our Reinforcer Chem Shot, is it's going to allow us to get more skill tiers. So, the healing when we first start, we're at skill tier 1 with the pistol in our hand. Again, that's one extra skill tier, right? So that's what it's given us. So if we take a look, the first skill tier that we gain, we're going to gain 20% healing. But if we look, it's a 20% increment per skill tier. Now, if you remember, it said it gives us 60% healing. So 60% healing is like 3 skill tiers, plus the 1 skill that we've got. That's going to take us up to 80%. So we're going to actually see quite a lot of value out of this. It's really going to help in a tight spot. It's going to make your healer actually work much, much better than what it would do otherwise. So that's the reason why I've gone with that. You could go with the drone, fix a drone, something like that if you liked. I've just chosen this because it can help me and it can help teammates. So that's my choice behind it. Again, we've talked about the cluster grenades, not super useful, but, you know, you could use them. They are there. You know, don't forget about them, I guess. Right, so let's just go down to the range. Check the range is on heroic, good. Let's also just make sure that skill haste is turned off. And let's just go in and out of the range. And then just check the modifiers are off. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I am a little bit sick, by the way, so if you can hear that in my voice, I am actually a little bit under the weather right now. So, working on the stat sheet, we have Pecan, Unwavering, and Reformation. We have weapon damages, and remembering that these weapon damages will increase once we get harmony bonuses, so yeah, this is not an actual true reflection, I guess. So as I said, I've got where am I? 60% crit chance. And again, that's why I was grabbing at crit damage. It was a little low on crit damage. This could be higher if I'd done things the other way around, put crit damage rolls on the bottom and then taking crit chance where I've needed it instead of my attachments. So you could do this the other way around and definitely get a bit more, potentially maybe 10, 15% more. Okay. So weapon damage is reasonably high. We are 3 red, 3 blue, and we're going to have obviously an extra 15. So we do gain a reasonable amount of extra damage here. We have the gear talents Accelerando and Fortissimo. I hope I'm saying that right. We also have Counter for the holster. We're wearing 4 pieces of Virtuoso. We are using a piece of Ziadoka. And we are wearing the Centurion's Scabbard. We have just a little over 1.28 million armor, so 1.3 rounded up. Health on kill is 100,000, which is quite nice. That's like a third of our health nearly. We have the Reviver Hive and the Reinforcer Chem Shot. Right, so again, like I've said, this is a build that's made for just a bit of fun. This isn't a meta build. It's not a build that we're going to be using for, anything other than just to have a little bit of fun with, okay? So, I guess the first thing I'll show is the pecan. So, we need to make sure that we have the right bonus. So, when we see the icon with the white hair, that bonus is for the ammo. So, we don't want this with ours. So, we're going to change to the pistol, change back. Now we have the right bonus for that. So, what I'm going to do is quickly, we can take us up to 108, okay, in the pecan to start with. This should be plenty enough to get, a full set of stacks for our weapon. And if we quickly reload now, 235, okay. So we didn't quite get the bonus that time. So what I'll do is I'll just shoot these targets one more time. So should it fall this way, which it's not always likely to, but if you got 4 kills very, very quickly while this bonus was up from the holster, you can see it running, ticking down in the bottom there. So quickly, 325 rounds. Not always going to fall like that, but what we can actually do is we can take advantage of that by just showing it one more time. And what we'll do is we'll just get 2 stacks this time, right? And because we have that extra ammo capacity, what we can do is we can just maybe confirm 2 kills. Maybe 3. That's realistic, right? 3 kills. 271, okay? So even if you got 2 kills, you're going to see some value out of that magazine size on top of, the weapon's talent. It's actually going to help us. Right, so on to the main part, which is the slingshot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up 2 targets. I'm going to bring one close, and I'm going to bring one far away. And what I'm going to do is just show how this would work. So I could have my main weapon here. I can quickly pull out this, burn a target. But as you'd notice, I can shoot the target down the other end of the range and look at it with unwavering. It's like a laser beam. There is no movement whatsoever. So, and if you remember, if I just use my scope, I can look down my scope to find a target, sort of trace my bullets a little bit. Not that it's needed, but if you were to reach out and touch a target at the end of your distance range, that would be sort of useful for you. And as I say, remember that we have, when we switch to the weapon, a higher fire rate to help us accommodate for the fact that we need to get kills quickly. Okay, so like 720,000 in the head when we have the bonuses up, and we gain a little bit of bonus armor there as well. So the main other thing, don't forget, if you get hurt, I don't think Reformation works in the range, which it doesn't, so we're not going to see full value of this, but we can hold our pistol, just get a headshot, and then drop a chem shot. And this is going to be like 60% better than this if we get a headshot. So, realistically, we're going to see much more value than this. But as you can see, they're just handy to have, just to keep us in the fight and make sure that we've got another source of healing, because we are a little bit weaker. All right. Lots of working parts on this build, and I'm also quite ill on top of that. But thank you, Brandon Farmer, for your suggestion. Really appreciate you. And I will be posting a few more videos today, as I normally do, with the 4 builds that I put out a week. So excited to see you in the next videos. Thanks, guys.